Hi there and welcome along to another workout for you to row along to. Today is day 18 of the 30 days of 30-minute workouts, but don't worry, you can still do this as a standalone. Just because it's out here as a thing to do doesn't mean that you can't just dip in and do this session on its own, okay? That's the kind of big sell. Anyway, what we're doing today is we're gonna just look at the 30 minutes as an 18 strokes a minute, 2K plus 20 to 22 pace row, but every 5 minutes we're gonna throw in 5 power strokes. Power strokes basically just mean that you go full push with the legs and finish nice and strong with the arms. Why are we doing this? Well, really just to keep the 30 minutes at 18 strokes a minute a bit more interesting. I know it's not the most exciting row in the world to do. However, when it comes to your core fitness and that chance to work on technique, it is one of the most important sessions that you can do. So these 5 power strokes are just in there as a kind of reward for getting through each 5 minutes, okay? But trust me, this really is a session that you want to fall in love with because it's just so good for you. Even if you don't want to be a proper rower, just from a fitness point of view, it's just so good for you, all right? So let's get into a 4-minute warm-up like we always do, and we start by racing to the front of the machine and setting our drag factor where we want it to be. If you don't know what drag factor is, please check out the video on this channel. I set mine to run about 120, 125. If you are on a non-concept 2, then if you just got like a resistance or something, then you want to set it to a point where you get a nice weight from the stroke, okay? It doesn't feel like you're rowing air, but it also doesn't feel as though you're having to kind of haul a ton of bricks to the back of the machine, okay? You want to be able to lock into the stroke and push with your legs and then finish with your arms. Next up, if you're able to, then go to your monitor and set it to eye height so you don't have to look up and you don't have to look down. And finally, go to your foot stretchers, foot straps, and if you're able to adjust the height of them, then please set them to a point when you can get to the front of the machine comfortably with your shins pointing vertically, okay? That's important. If they're set too high, then you might not quite be able to get there. And if they're set too low, you might go scooting straight past that vertical point, which can kind of cause hyperextension in your back, and it can also cause power leaks because it'll bounce your backside out from underneath you. Okay, so our 4-minute warm-up, we're going to do 18 strokes per minute, and our pace, really just to start, we're going to be thinking about a relatively push from our feet. Oh, there's a dog outside. Push from our feet to then be able to connect your feet to your hands to the handle to the flywheel, if you get what I mean, because you want to get that power from your feet into the machine. Don't worry, I explained that poorly because the dog put me off. I'll explain it as we get into the warm-up. So, here we go then. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. So, just enough of a push that you can feel the connection between your feet and your hands. That's all I need right now. So you push into the machine with your feet, that adds power, but you have to somehow get it up into your hands. And that comes firstly by making sure that you connect the handle to whatever the power system on your rowing machine is at the same time. Because if you push with your feet too soon, then basically your waist power and your backside scoots away from underneath you. And if you pull on the handle too soon, then you can't quite get the snap of that power into the machine. So if you can push at the same time you feel your hands connect, then that's the first part. The next part is to make sure you have a forward lean, tilting over your hips into the front of the machine, and arms straight. And that will get the power in there. So increase your push from your feet so that your pace starts to get up around about 2K plus 20. Now 2K pace means rowing a 2-kilometer time trial and dividing the result by 4. And that gives you your average 500-meter time across that 2K time trial. So when I say 2K plus 20, you row 20 seconds slower than your average 2K 500-meter pace. Okay, last stroke. Let's put one foot on the ground. Continue rowing. Now this will help you just focus on that leg drive. Also helps a little bit with that flexibility as you lean into the front of the machine and then get those shins vertical, which gives you optimum leg power. Okay, swap feet. Well, when I mean optimum leg power, I mean kind of optimum starting point. You still have to push. Just being forwards with your shins vertical doesn't really help much. Not going to go anywhere. Okay, 3 more here. 2, 1. Right, put both legs in, nice and straight, and just row using your back and arms. So swing over your back, pull in your arms, and then push out your arms, swing back over your hips again. And that's the key here, is to make sure you're just tilting, swinging backwards and forwards, rather than rounding your back and crumpling backwards and forwards. Just get a sensation of that hinging backwards and forwards. Talking of forwards, let's roll to the front of the machine with arms straight, forward lean, and just press out from the front. Push just enough with your feet that you can feel that connection to your hands again. And so you can hold that forward lean and straight arms as you do so. Right. Can we get 2 more of this? I think we can. 1 more. Right. Now, I've been trying not to do little edits in any of my rows, but I can feel that my little microphone thing is clicking away as I'm rowing. So there's going to be a tiny edit, and then I'll come back to you, okay? Just in a sec. Right, there we go, there we are, I'm back again. Not entirely sure what caused that, but a little bit of gaffer tape seems to have fixed it for the time being. Anyway, so what we're doing today is a 30-minute row, and we're going to do this at 18 strokes a minute and round about 2k plus 20 to 22 pace, which keeps that right down at that bottom tier intensity. However, every 5 minutes as a reward for being good, then I want you to do 5 power strokes, which means a good old full-on push from the legs and a good old full-on finish with the arms as well, and then you roll back into the 18 strokes a minute, and then you do it again and again and again. So at that 5-minute marker point each time, we're going to do 5 power strokes. All right, just to make things a little bit more fun. And that's it really. So just start, stop, and just make sure and use this time to really focus on your fitness and just let your technique flow and things as you're going through this. So hopefully this is just going to be a nice regenerative recovery row after yesterday's really tough top tier, and then tomorrow's going to be a mid tier as well. So, and we're within, if you're doing this within the 30 days of 30-minute workouts, then you could just do with having that little bit of a less intensity row, okay? And without it being too like, oh, let's throw in a 30-second sprint and stuff. It's like, actually, just these 5 power strokes will be enough to keep it interesting. Shall I stop yammering at you and shall we just start rowing together? That's a good idea. Right, so here we go then. 18 strokes a minute at 2k plus 20 to 22 pace. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. I quite like, especially with the 20 to 22 kind of bracket, I quite like just falling into 18 strokes a minute and wherever my legs kind of feel they want to push out, that's the pace I'm going to stick with. So after 9 strokes, 30 seconds gone, it seems like my legs are wanting to row this at 2k plus 20 today. Although I did just drop to 21. There we go. So let's just hold 2k plus 20. Remember, on sessions like this, it doesn't really matter too much if you drop off a couple of seconds as we go through the workout. What matters more is if you get a bit over eager and speed up too much and start to shift the emphasis or the intensity, more like, of this row towards a mid intensity on my pyramid. All depends. I mean, there's so many different ways to gauge your workout. There's doing it this way. There's basing it on heart rate zones. There's literally capping your heart rate using something like the Maffetone system. But really, all of the systems are just trying to give you a balance between building your fitness and your performance. So today's session is really about building your fitness. I mentioned once or twice over these 30 days, oh well, 18 so far, of workouts that I look at your available energy like a big bowl of power. I started to describe it like a clay bowl being formed, kind of like that scene in Ghost. And every time you do a session like this, that bowl gets bigger and it contains more power, more energy. As you get fitter, you have more fuel for your workouts. So that's what today is about. It's about giving you a bigger bowl of fuel, of power. And then the mid-tier and top tier are more about how you use that fuel. But the important part is to make sure to return to sessions like this to help that bowl of power refill after an intense workout. So yesterday was a top tier. That drained my bowl of power. And then although it refilled quite far after a good amount of food and sleep, this session today will fill it back to the top and hopefully give me a little bit more power too. Okay, in 3 strokes time, we're doing 5 power strokes. Now remember, it comes from the legs. Last one. Here we go. 5 strokes. Push with the feet. Push with the legs. So push that machine away from you. Keep your arms straight. Forward lean. And then push. There you go. That's 5, isn't it? If I miscounted, hopefully you managed it. And that's the big technique thing that most new rowers need to try to learn, is that your power comes from your leg drive, from pushing your feet into the machine. And that's why I was so big on talking about making sure your shins are vertical as you come forwards, and talking about the timing of that connection between your legs and your hands. Because as much as I'm saying the power comes from the legs. It has to get into the machine, like I said. So there's no point having a huge, powerful push with your legs if you don't connect that push to your hands and the hands to the handle. Because if I push too soon, what happens is my backside ends up at the back of the machine. My body lunges forwards as my hands are left behind, and my power dropped about 7 seconds, even though I was putting in the same amount of push from my legs, because I completely missed that connection. So really do think about snapping in feet and hands together. And to be honest, this is one of those do as I say, not as I do moments, because I still have a tiny, well, I hope it's tiny, leak at the front of the machine where, for whatever reason, it's like I come in and there's a swing or a release of my backside that happens, and it just goes away from underneath me. I'll try to analyze that in one of the upcoming form check Fridays, so I can show you what I'm on about. If you don't know what I'm on about form check Fridays, every Friday I take a look at a video of somebody rowing and then say what works about it, or say what doesn't work about it, and what people could do to improve their technique if they were in a similar position. And I'll also look at some really fast rowers and talk about their technique too. So it's not just gym monkeys like you and me that we're looking at. All right, 4 strokes to go, and then we'll hit the next power strokes. One more. Here we go. Push with the legs. Okay, so the power comes from the legs. 3, 4, 5. And what you should have felt is that if you have that forward tilt over your hips and your arms are straight as you push with the legs, you should have felt that the tension, the force on the handle as you push with your legs increases when you go for the power strokes. But as long as you don't have your resistance or drag factor set too high, I'm not saying resistance is drag factor, by the way. Hopefully I left enough of a gap there. As long as it's not, or the weight of your machine isn't too heavy, you still shouldn't feel like you have to grab and pull early. That extra force that you feel as you push harder with your feet should just make the machine go faster. It's one of these odd things to try and describe to someone. That's why I've started to liken it to what it's like when you hang off a pull-up bar. When you hold on to a pull-up bar and your feet are off the ground, you're not pulling on that bar. You're just hanging off it. And that's keeping you off the ground. And so then, when you push harder with your feet in rowing, that hang feels a little bit more powerful, more tension in it, as though someone is just strapped a 10 kilogram weight plate to you. And that hang off the pull-up bar now feels a little bit more forceful. But you don't have to bend your arms in that position in order to be able to take the extra weight of that hang. You just keep your arms straight and you just hang there until basically, eventually, this analogy wears out around about the same time your muscles wear out. But hopefully you get what I mean. So, as you push with your feet, with straight arms, you just feel as though you're hanging from a pull-up bar. And then, only at the back of the stroke, do you finally pull yourself up, if you get what I mean, to finish the stroke. Mixing terminologies there, but hopefully you understand. Right, 6 strokes to go, and then we'll get into our third power strokes. So 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Power strokes. Push with the feet. Nice straight arms. Forward lean. Push. One more. Good job. And then the forward lean, well, that has 2 purposes. The first one is that it helps that power from your legs just travel up through your body and into your shoulders, into your arms, uninterrupted. Because if you are like this, as you drive, you're suddenly taking it through your lower back, fighting against the power. So let me catch up a bit. There we go. But the other thing is that as you swing your body from a forward lean to a backward lean, you add in power. So say your legs add in, say, I can throw out random numbers, okay? 100 watts of power. So push from your legs. Then, as you swing your body from a forward lean to a backward lean, remembering you're still connected to the handle, that adds in an extra 40 watts of power. 40 watts that, if you rode like this, with your back vertical or worse, leaning backwards, you don't get those 40 watts because your back's already leaning backwards. And then, because your arms are straight at the front, not fighting with the leg power, when you start your backswing and then pull in with your arms add in like another 20 watts worth of power. So you go 150-20, 150-20, if you take my numbers with a pinch of salt. And if you grab the handle early, then not only can you not put in that power from the legs because you're fighting the power with your biceps, but you also kind of lose that extra surge at the back of the stroke. So your legs, which might have been capable of outputting 100 watts, are now only putting out 80 watts. And your arms, which were finishing strong with 20 watts, are now really only giving you 10 watts. And then if you throw in a poor backswing as well, then you've gone down to a possible, or from a possible 170 to 90. All because your body position isn't quite right as you drive and swing with your back and pull in with your arms. Ooh. Okay, 3 strokes to go. 2 more. Last one, and then power strokes. You ready? Here we go. Push. So hold that forward lean. Push. Keep those arms straight. Push. Only pull at the back of the stroke. Pull, push. No, other way around. Push, pull. I should just give up. Start back into normal pace. Oh, good grief, John, you were doing so well. Again, if I was of the tall persuasion or the equine persuasion, or even if I was Cameron Buchan, I'd probably edit all of that out. But not gonna. And if you wonder why I named Cameron but not the other two, he's a fellow Scot, good to support him. Great videos, worthwhile checking his stuff out. I mean, as well as me, not instead of me. He's a super powerful rower. One of his videos has him at, I think it was 5:45 for his 2K. So a great guy to watch and aspire to, but like I always say about watching people who are possibly a lot faster than you, use their status, is that the right word? Capability to inspire you, because they prove that such things exist as a 5:45 2K. But if you use them as motivation, quite quickly it can go the other way around. I mean, if I was to look at someone rowing a 5:45 2K and say, that's my goal, that's what I want to be able to do, then within, I don't know, I'd say 3 months, I'd really quickly realise that for me, that's never going to happen. And that's if I was kind of going without the knowledge I already have. That's what I mean. Because as a guy in his mid-40s and a lightweight at only 5'11"-ish, it's never on the cards for me. I don't think it would have been on the cards even when I was in my 20s if I trained every day as a rower. I don't have the build to be that fast. And once you realize that, if you set your motivation unrealistically, then it can really damage your motivation to row. Whereas if you take someone rowing that fast as inspiration, but then just set your sights on micro goals. So if my 2K was 7 minutes and 5 seconds, my real goal would just to be sub 7. And then possibly under 6:55, 6:50, 6:45. Small goals. And that way you can see them and they're not unachievable. Okay. 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Power. Push with the legs. Arms straight. Swing over your hips halfway through the leg drive. Swing. And then pull at the end. Pull. All done. Now, with 17 seconds to go on the clock, that's time for 5 more power strokes. So, although it breaks the 5 minutes rule on today's row, it does mean you get in an extra set of 5 strokes. And talking of motivation, you'll be, or maybe not unsurprised, but it is funny how you can squeeze a little bit more power out when taken by surprise. Like if I was rowing this session and you're starting to feel a little bit fatigued and you're looking at 3.5 minutes to go. I'm thinking, oh, I'm quite pleased it's going to be over. I can just about manage this rate and pace until the end, yeah. But then I suddenly throw at you that the last minute we're gonna sprint. Don't worry, we're not gonna, I'm just using this as an example. But then suddenly you're having to pull yourself up, energize yourself, almost get that adrenaline running to be prepared for that big sprint at the end. Because it's easy to just almost circle the bowl of power and tell yourself that, oh, I'm getting tired and all that stuff. But then when someone comes along and says, right, let's sprint, let's have a race, something like that, then you get energy and power that you were not letting come in because you were too busy circling that to the bottom of the bowl of power. It's not quite as applicable in a role like this, because you should have loads and loads and loads of fitness that you shouldn't need to stop once we get to 30 minutes done. This should only have used a maximum of half of your bowl of power. But if this was like a 6 times 5 minute tempo row at 2k plus 8 pace, you would be on the ragged edge a bit and starting to feel like, oh, this is getting a bit much. But then when someone says, right, once you're done, that last minute sprint, it's easy to just open your eyes and go for it. And that's what you need at the end of like a 2k or a 5 or a 10 or 30 minute, is to still be able to have that sprint in you at the very end, no matter how tired you're telling yourself you are. Okay, power strokes coming up now. Power 5. Power 4. Power 3. Power 2. Last one. Power 1. Whew. So, bit of a meandering chat today between technique and motivation and stuff. But hopefully, and also got to fix this microphone. Don't know what's wrong with you. It's always microphone issues I have. It's always the sound department. The camera department hardly ever lets me down, but sound department does. Anyway, right. Have a quick drink. Just move slightly up and down the rail. Drink. This keeps your muscles moving if you move up and down. And then compose yourself, ready. Whoop. What did I just click on? Ready for a 2-minute cooldown. There you go, sending it from Ergzone. If you don't have a PM5 monitor, you only got a PM3 or 4, then maybe for Christmas, I really suggest getting a PM5. And then if you've got either an Apple iPhone or an Android phone, just using Ergzone to wirelessly program your monitor, oh man, it makes life so much simpler. Especially for making videos like this. Okay, 2-minute cooldown at 18 strokes a minute. Maybe go for around about 2k plus 20 pace and then quite quickly slow down from there, okay? In 3, 2, 1, let's go. So like 5 strokes again at 2k plus 20 pace, just to kind of flush out your muscles, and then just ease off the power a little bit, maybe to 2k plus 25, but keep your stroke technique flowing, okay? So don't, just because you're putting in less power doesn't mean that you have like a shorter slide or you choke the back of the stroke. All that's happening is you're putting in less power into your leg drive. And whereas before you maybe had a 2-to-1 ratio of drive to recovery, where your drive speed was twice as fast as your recovery, with less power, maybe your drive speed is slightly slower. So maybe it's more like a 3-to-2 ratio. Am I getting my fractions right? I think I am. Where they're closer together in terms of the speed between a drive and the recovery. But ideally you always want to take longer on the recovery phase, because it is just that. It's the recovery. It's where you shouldn't really be using your muscles and exhausting yourself. You're taking longer to recover than you are to drive. So when you think about it, in a half-hour row, like just then, you actually spent 20 minutes doing nothing. Well, not quite nothing, but you get what I mean. There we go, right. That's today's row done. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I mean, I did. These 18 strokes, 18 strokes per minute at that pace give me just the workout I need. I mean, my heart rate only really got up to about 70% of max, and that's taking into account the fact I'm talking to you as well, so that would probably be around about 66, 67 if I wasn't talking to you. And the power strokes just added in a little bit of fun, so you're only ever looking 5 minutes ahead to the next one rather than looking at the clock and going, oh my good grief, it's half an hour. However, now that we're on day 18 of the 30 days of 30-minute workouts, if you've been doing these with me, then hopefully by now that there's been a sea change where a half-hour workout now just goes whoosh and flies by. Whereas before, maybe half an hour would have taken half an hour. Now, like mentally, maybe you're like, crikey, that only felt like 20 minutes. It felt like I just sat down and did a couple of things and I'm finished. Woohoo! Just because of breaking them up into smaller chunks. So that's why I've really got 1 or 2 full-on, just it's a solid 30 minutes that you don't change anything for. And even then, most of the time, there's a level of intensity going into it that actually you're concentrating so much on trying to keep the power up or trying to just complete the row that you don't really look at the clock and think, oh, am I only at 26 minutes? So there we go. Fun row for me. I hope it was for you too. Make sure to leave some kind of a comment somewhere and let me know how you got on. This isn't about spreading the socials. This is just literally letting me know how you got on with it. So I do quite regularly say that I make these videos because you watch them. So the comments let me know that you're out there. So if you're going to leave a comment, then what did we talk about? Oh, I even had, I think I had a hashtag at one point and then I completely forgot it. Yeah, no, it's gone. It's absolutely gone. I had it in my head. It was something I said towards the end of the row. Was it about just G'ing up? It's just that you always have. Well, I've used the phrase before that you always have room for dessert. Okay, and what that means is that if you go out for dinner, you have a big meal, and then you had your big meal, and you're like, oh, I'm stuffed. And then the waiter comes and says, dessert, sir? And you're like, oh, I'll have dessert, even though you're stuffed, because there's always room for dessert. Okay, so that's what the hashtag will be. And that's what I mean by these little minute sprints at the end when you get surprised by them. So always room for dessert if you can be bothered, or just dessert. Use that as a hashtag just to let me know you got this far. If you're going to leave a comment somewhere. But yeah, that's us. So tomorrow's row is back to a mid-tier intensity on my intensity pyramid. So it's going to step it up a little bit. and then we'll take it back down to the bottom tier again, and then we hit the Sunday morning, 9 o'clock in the morning UK time, the Erg race row that is run by Fitness Matters that I've been doing, and then that's a freestyle row, okay? So you can do that as a top tier 30-minute time trial if you want. You can do it as the 20 strokes a minute, full power from your legs if you want. You can just do it however you want. However, I will tell you my plans for doing it on Sunday morning when we get into it, okay? So yeah, so there we go. So that's what's coming up. We're on day 18. So we've got what? Is that 11 days to go? Woo, that's good. And then I've got something special in store for Christmas or for December. I'm not going to do the Advent calendar because that would then mean that I'll finish this 30 days and I'm going to go straight into a 25-day run. And trust me, as much as I'm saying I've got the energy, I'm going to need a couple of days off, for at least the 1st of December off. But yeah, so keep an eye out on an announcement for that. And also keep an eye out for Form Check Fridays when that drops next, which would be, it'll be dated the, oh crikey, I don't know actually, the 19th? Yeah, it'll be dated the 19th of November for the next one. But yeah, doesn't matter because you could be watching these completely out of sequence. So anyway, right, you look after yourselves, please stay safe and be well. Bye-bye.